Just getting our tickets to go on the trolley.
Ray was there from the age of 7 to 14, but they say that he was expelled from school there for joyriding. Just hope Ray wasn't driving that car. He would have been pretty banged up by the time they got pulled over. If I'd have known that story in those days, I would have certainly asked for clarification on that. He was a cool old cat, though. So they took it pretty easily. Under interrogation, the soldiers there told Menendez that the French fleet had just sailed south to take the city of St. Augustine. Pretty awesome, isn't it? 208 feet tall, everyone. Men settled
Went
into
there on
St.
other
Augustine.
videos.
He marched him up to Fort Caroline. About a block over to our right, called the Rosario Line, which was the western border of town. And the ocean makes up the southern and eastern borders of St. Augustine. These walls were manned 24 hours a day by armed soldiers prepared to fire on any unwanted visitors to town. But in addition to having the armed soldiers, please remain seated until the trolley comes to a complete stop and here to Bell. And we're approaching the Visitor Information Center. We'll find a free St. Augustine History Museum. 3 or 2 large stone pillars. Those are the city gates. Erected in 1808 as part of the Northern Defense Wall. Doesn't sound like a nice evening, so I'm sure no one made that mistake more than once in their life. City gates, just ahead on our left. And coming up on the right is St. George Street. It's the center of shopping for downtown St. Augustine, where you can find the oldest wooden schoolhouse and St. Methodio's Greek Orthodox shrine. Again, please remain seated until the trolley comes to a complete stop and here to Bell. And always exit backwards as you're stepping off a ladder. This will be stop number 4, City Gates. So you'd think they would have figured that out long before the night burned down, but apparently not. And coming up on the right is the Colonial Experience. 2 acres of living history, where you can climb a 35-foot watchtower, see a blacksmith performing his work, and he'll shoot a few cannons while you're here. And they also have a great flag collection. And we're heading on to Colonial Street. It was built very narrow for a couple of reasons. One is that it made it difficult to march large amounts of soldiers through here in formation. And the other is that it acts as a natural air conditioning system by funneling the cool air off the bay directly into the heart of the city. Now, the British added doors to the streets, glass windows, and the upper levels made of wood. Most of the older homes and buildings in town are a combination of Spanish and British architecture. And up ahead on our right, where you see the flags out front, is the Columbia Restaurant. Stop number 7, St. George and High Colonial Streets. Down in what is now New Smyrna Beach. Once that farm failed, while the camp went down, gathered up the Menorcans and returned them to St. Augustine. So he petitioned the governor for an area of town for him to stay, and they were granted the area that we're in right now. The longest continuously occupied European settlement in North America. That's because they stayed here through absolutely everything. My time, and it is one of the most beautiful buildings in St. Augustine. And it was the first hotel in America to have hot and cold running water and electricity in every room. In fact, they had electricity here 5 years before the White House. Now, a lot of people were afraid of electricity in the late 1800s. They didn't really understand what it was, but they certainly knew it could be dangerous. So many of the guests staying at the Ponce de Leon were afraid to touch the light switches. Flagler hired a crew of men to go from room to room and do nothing but that. Pretty amazing. Now, those windows are insured at a value of $131 million. Those were struck across the bay at night, about a foot below the waterline. Across the street is the Lightner Museum, hotels, the Alcazar to our left, and of course the Ponce de Leon to our right. Standing out in front of the college is a statue of Henry Flagler. He's got his hand in his pocket and he's staring across the street at the bank. Yalaha Plantation. Yalaha means orange in Seminole. Can I get a Yalaha back there, everyone? pull some of that whiskey, rum, vodka, or gin. Maybe all four. And St. Augustine is the patron saint of brewers. It's used for administrative offices, but they do hold weddings and other special events here. Let's do it 4'11", everyone. 4'11". But that was pretty typical of Spanish men back here. Pull in. Freedom and Black Raven Pirate Adventure Ship. Now the Victory 3 is currently out of the water getting a little bit of work done, but you'll see the Black Raven and Scooter Freedom to our left in just a moment. The pirates on the Black Raven put on a great show. That ship's a lot of fun. 74 Lighthouse. And that's the second version of the lighthouse built here. The first one crumbled right into the sea. This is the first house built since that burning. This is going to be stop number 14, the oldest house. When you see the oldest house from out here on St. Francis Street, it can be a bit deceiving because you just see the front of the house and the front of their museum. But there are several acres of property here. We have a couple of homes on the property. And you have a great museum with hundreds of artifacts. In fact, the building that houses their museum was the first building in St. Augustine erected exclusively to become a museum. And they have a beautiful garden that's already hold weddings and other special events. The city of St. Augustine throughout their history. There's a lot going on here besides just the oldest house and its guided tour. And that's a good look at the Bridge of Lions from back here. Picture from St. Augustine over to Anastasia Island, and that was completed in 1927, named Firm and Faithful. Now, these two lions were dedicated by Dr. Andrew Anderson II, former owner of the Barton House and once the mayor in town. It gave him a direct shot out of the port into the Atlantic Ocean. Now the inlet is about 1.5 miles out.
That was a great tour. There are 21 stops on the trolley tour. I got off at stop 16 just by the fort